Colleagues, thank you for opening this video podcast. My name is Loykie, and my aim with this video is to contribute to your professional development as an IB educator. With this video, I have three objectives. Firstly, I want to outline changes in the business management guide. Secondly, I want to help you reflect on the impacts of those changes on your practice. And thirdly, I want to create a sense of excitement and anticipation about the new guide. I will structure my presentation along four questions: when, why, what, and how. Starting with when, hence this little calendar. The new IB guide and all the accompanying documents were published on the 1st of February 2022. The next slide is a screenshot of the dedicated website the IB has created for us. As you can see at the top, first assessment of the new guide will be in 2024. So if you teach GP in 2 years in an IB school with exams in May 24, you will start using the new guide in August or September 22. If you teach standard level in 1 year only, like many American colleagues, you will only start using it in summer 2023. And if you're in a school in the Southern Hemisphere with November exams, your first exams of the new course will be in November 24. So please be vigilant, it can be quite confusing. Once you access this website via MyIB, on the top left side you can see the guide. The guide is our point of reference. It is set in stone, and it will not change for the next 7 years, although the IB reserves the right to make some very minor changes, for example, if there is a typo or an error somewhere. You may download it as PDF and turn it into a Word document, or you may prefer to work on the web pages themselves. In the middle column, we have a very useful TSM, teacher support material. The IB invested a lot of time, energy, and resources to give us teachers extra documents. I will show you examples later. Eventually, on the right-hand side, under assessment, we have specimen papers and mock schemes for all exams, as well as many answers written by students with marks and commentaries by senior examiners. This can help us calibrate and understand the expectation, the benchmarks, and the different criteria, especially the mock bands. Now, back to my own slide. Moving on with my presentation. After the when, which gave me the opportunity to show you the wealth of material we have on the official IB website, the why. Why do we have a new guide? Not because the current one is not good or not good anymore. You see, all IB subjects have a 7-year life shelf, and so they go through a process called curriculum review, which lasts several years, consists in many meetings, consultation, reviews of draft documents, and eventually a group of people produce the guide. This is the outcome of a long process. Moreover, for us, this new guide will better reflect and address current changes occurring in the business world. On my next slide, I have some logos and symbols to illustrate some of those changes. Some of them you will readily recognize. For example, the fact that in some countries, such as France, the McDo logo has a green background, not a red one, to indicate that the brand is more organic and healthy and sustainable. And indeed, I have a symbol for sustainability. Sustainability is in the new guide. I have a symbol for big data, and we have big data in your new guide, together with topics of data mining and data analysis. You may here recognize the logo of Uber, and with Uber we are in the gig economy, and that expression too is in the guide. I'll let you identify the others and reflect on the reasons why I included them. So why do we have a new guide? Because of the IB curriculum review process, in order to reflect changes in the business world, and also to have a document better aligned to IB pedagogy. The current guide was published in 2012, so it was written before the IB formally launched its ATL, Approaches to Teaching and Learning, for example. On the next slide, I have a screenshot of the 6 approaches to teaching, i.e. what the IB tells us is good practice in IB pedagogy. I'll let you read or reread these pedagogical principles that underpin all IB programs. For us in business management, I think this is a cause of celebration, as our teaching already focuses on conceptual understanding, point number 2, and is developed in context, local, national, international context, point number 3. I want to draw your attention to the first principle, inquiry-based teaching. The word inquiry is synonymous with research, if you prefer the word research. Very simply put, as IB educators, we help students learn by researching topics actively, as opposed to being spoon-fed information. I will return to this principle of inquiry a little later. My next slide is an extract from the IB learner profile. As we know, the IB learner profile has 10 attributes. I selected 6 of them here. 6 attributes that may be particularly relevant for us in business management. All 10 are important, of course, and a typical activity in workshop and training sessions is to discuss which one or which ones we favor. And we are now going to concentrate on 2 of them in particular. We want our students to be inquirers and caring. I stress this now because the new IB course of business management really emphasizes those 2 elements, inquirers and caring. Inquiry plays a much more prominent role in the new guide, very explicitly so. This text here is an extract from the new guide very early on when presenting the guide at the beginning, telling us that the business management course is focused on inquiry-based teaching and learning. You will see later how and where inquiry is present, but I can give you an example already. At the end of each unit, we have those inquiry statements, which give us the chance to explore the syllabus beyond just a mere list of topics. So here is the list at the end of Unit 5. Consider the second bullet point, the second inquiry statement. Why outsourcing could result in lower quality. So this is an example of an inquiry task we could give our students. So they research the issue, thereby linking 2 topics, outsourcing and quality, and developing not only their research skills, but also their analytical skills, AO2, and their evaluative skills, AO3, how to measure quality, evaluation, and how to establish a relationship between outsourcing and quality management. Those inquiry statements are suggestions and examples of possible tasks. Let's now go back to our learner profile. The 2 attributes of inquirer and caring. I briefly mentioned the prominent role of inquiry in the new guide. I will do the same about caring. Now, caring may not be a term that we spontaneously associate with the world of business management, the world of cutthroat competition where you have to beat your competitors, where there is only one winner and the winner takes it all, to quote Abba. Now, of course, IB Business celebrates profit, entrepreneurship, success, efficiency, and market leadership. But from a caring perspective, there is another dimension too, one that is at the forefront of business management nowadays. It's about social enterprise. And social entrepreneurs indeed are people who, to quote the IB learner profile, make a positive difference in the lives of others and the world around us. And I also want to draw your attention to the aim of the new course. I'll let you read it. So very explicitly, the IB reminds us that we are training the business leaders of tomorrow, the entrepreneurs of tomorrow, but also the social entrepreneurs of tomorrow. This is very explicit in the aim of the course. I will give you another example about the importance of caring and social enterprise. We have a new paper, paper 3, for high-level students. And paper 3 is about a social enterprise. I will come back to this later, but I'm giving some background here so you understand later why we have a paper 3 about social enterprise. But for now, let's be organized and return to the structure of the presentation. So after the when and the why, the what. What are the key changes in the guide? We'll now focus on what has changed using a simple model that you probably know. It's called Pareto's law, Pareto's principle, the 80-20. And I am using it as follows. Only 20% of the guide has changed, maybe 15%, but this is what I will focus on. So I will briefly mention what has not changed, but my emphasis will be on the changes. This said, I do not want you to think that a lot has changed. It is not the case, as I try to show on my next slide. Because in terms of contents, the new syllabus builds on the current one, which I try to illustrate with some visuals here. So we still have the same 4 business units: human resources, illustrated by Maslow's pyramid; finance, illustrated by the profit and loss account; marketing, illustrated here by the hands-off matrix. We still have operation, illustrated by the batch production of the baker. So the canon of business management is still here. For example, break-even analysis or a steeple analysis of the external environment, or methods of external growth through joint venture or franchising. As you know, the current syllabus is like a mini MBA, and this is not changing. So all the teaching and learning activities that we have about these topics, we can still use them. And I do want to stress that the foundations of the new course are the same one. The new syllabus, if you want, is not a revolution, it is an evolution. This said, the syllabus has been actualized, has been updated. So we say goodbye to some topics. Maybe sadly we say goodbye to Daniel Pink and his book Drive and his model of PAM, Purpose, Autonomy, Mastery. In previous workshops, I was asked why. Why are we getting rid of this? Well, the answer is difficult and easy at the same time. It is easy because the committee of people who wrote the new guide decided to do so. Maybe they did not like Pink's model at all, or maybe one person did, but they were in a minority and it was a trade-off. The committee is not justifying, their choice to us. It is their decision. We may regret it or not. I do regret it, but that's not the point. With my students, we used to read several pages from this book. Anyway, we say goodbye to Daniel Pink. We also say goodbye to the topic of debt factoring, and I'm really happy with that because as a source of finance, it was always very difficult for my students to understand debt factoring. We say goodbye to 3 methods of sampling: stratified, cluster, and snowballing. Not that they are not important, but if students go to university to study business or psychology, they will get the chance to learn about stratified sampling, cluster, and snowballing sampling. We say goodbye to some topics that were very fashionable 15 years ago: cellular manufacturing, guerrilla marketing. They are not so fashionable these days. We also say goodbye to some topics such as Kanban and Andon. By the same token, we are going to say hello to some new topics. We have new topics coming in. For example, we have a new formula, the defect rate, to calculate the defect rate in the case of a factory which has a high defective rate, for example. We have a new motivation theory, Deci and Ryan self-determination theory. You will probably go on the internet to find out what it is, as all of us did. I had no idea either. And then, of course, we ask ourselves, why do our students need to know about Deci and Ryan's theory? Again, it's the decision of the committee that wrote the book. We also have a new subunit of human resources called communication. And I try to illustrate with the images two other topics that we have as examples. I'll let you try to understand the topics they represent. So this little dude here is in trouble. His business is in trouble because he cannot pay his debt. He's a sole trader. He cannot pay his liability. So he will have to sell his assets. Oh, this is bankruptcy. So we have bankruptcy as a word at the topic in the guide. And the other one, the other one is a magnifier, and we have binary codes 01 or 01. So this is about digital crime, or rather cybersecurity. And this is linked to e-commerce, to online transaction in information systems. So these are some examples of the topics that are in. We also have some topics that have moved around in the syllabus. For example, in the current guide, microfinance providers are listed as one of the legal forms of organizations, which is not ideal. But now those microfinance providers, they will be listed as an external source of finance, which is a lot more coherent. Second example, break-even analysis. Break-even analysis will return to Unit 5. I say return because in the previous guide, as some of you may remember, break-even analysis was in Unit 5. It's then moved to Unit 3. Finance, it's back in Unit 5. Both make sense in a way because break-even analysis has elements of finance. It is about costs and profit and loss. But it is also about production. It's about minimum amount of production and sales. So the syllabus, as you can see anyway, has not changed much. Two other aspects have changed, and I will emphasize that now, not just in the contents, but our conceptual framework has evolved a little. The current guide has 6 concepts underpinning the course. This has been streamlined to 4. Ethics and change remain. Innovation has been replaced by creativity, which is broader. And we now have the concept of sustainability, which I think is a very welcome addition, as sustainability is a concept increasingly important in business management, in society in general. And many of our students may already be familiar with the SDG, the Sustainable Development Goals from the United Nations. So they may already be aware of what sustainability means. The relationship between the concepts, context, and content remain the same, of course, as we can teach business management from a contents viewpoint in a linear way. And maybe some of you do this. It is also possible to teach through concepts or through context, through examples and case studies. Of course, this is not changing, but the model of the new course has now the word inquiries as its center. Now, you remember how earlier I stressed the importance of inquiry about the approaches to teaching and learning and the learner profile. This is being made very explicit here. Another example, my next slide is one that we will see, that you saw earlier again, sorry, about those inquiry statements. You know, I showed you that slide, as I said, they offer links to the concepts. For example, explicitly, we have creativity here, and we also have the word sustainability. So those inquiry statements give us the chance to make links to the concepts explicitly or even implicitly, because when we mention new business models, this is about change. So I know that this is quite abstract. I will give you an example much more concrete on my next slide about what we now have in the guide, which is the toolkit. So we can simply define the toolkit as a collection of tools and models of business management that students gradually discover and have at their disposal. For example, BCG matrix and ends of matrix. Some of those tools are more quantitative, for example, decision tree. Others are more qualitative, for example, SWOT analysis. And we also have a tool with qualitative and quantitative elements, and that's force field analysis. They are all in the current guide. They're all also in the new guide. But in the new guide, they are compiled together in the toolkit. And students will discover them at different points of the course. For example, the ends of matrix about marketing strategies, but they can be useful in other parts of the course. For example, ends of matrix is very relevant for the subunit about research and developments. Those tools are not changing. Some are higher level only. For example, force field analysis, like in the current guide. But we also have some new ones. The toolkit includes some new tools. For instance, Porter's model of sources of competitive advantage. Now, that's very useful on the topic of competition and market leader. Are you the best because you are the cheapest or because you are unique? So it's about pricing strategy, it's about USP, etc. Some tools are qualitative like this one, others are quantitative. For example, we now have some basic statistics, such as the calculation of the mean or the standard deviation. I added the formula here. Our students must be able to calculate and interpret quartiles as well. What does it mean for a firm to be in the upper quartile in their industry? For example, when considering our competitors. So we have new elements of business mathematics, and I wanted to draw your attention to this, although there are very few of them. I also want to draw your attention to the new templates that we have. Not only balance sheet and profit and loss for commercial organization, but we have a few more at the end of the guide. For example, we have a template for cash flow forecast. The IB is now telling us this is the format to use, and this is wonderful, I think, to have a set template. Second example, oh please, my friends, observe it. This is a statement of profit and loss, but for non-profit making organizations. For example, a social enterprise. The slight difference is the fact that the word surplus replaces the word profit. The rest of the format is the same. But the IB here really flags the fact that although our subject is called business management, we do not just consider profit-making organization. Social enterprise is also important. So my friend, what does it give us overall? Well, here is a summary of our allocation for standard level and higher level. I'll stop talking. I'll let you observe and draw your own conclusion. And this is a slide you may well want to go back later and further consider, thinking about the impact on your practice. Or you may want to pause the podcast for now. Reflection time I have at the top of my slide here. Reflection time indeed. So you may want to pause the podcast and identify the changes that you like most. This is the time to review the changes and the notes that you have been taking. Now, coming back to the structure of my video podcast, after the when, the why and the what, we now have how. How is the IB going to assess our students with the new guide? Both the exam model and the IM model are changing. The exam model has been redesigned to ensure that each paper focuses on a particular skill set. As you know, a weakness of the current model is that section B of paper 1 looks very much like section B of paper 2, with some text followed by some questions. This is changing. And the IA itself is changing too. It is being redesigned, as I will outline shortly. Of course, what I will do with you is just an outline with the key ideas. And you will need to read more about it in the guide and in the TSM. This is just an overview, an introduction, starting with paper 1. And here I am not going to talk. I am just going to let you read the bullet points yourself. Now paper 2. And paper 3. Students have to write recommendations and a plan of action. Now, this may be daunting at first because it's new, but the IB is giving us a lot of material, and not only in the guide. So I'm back here with my screenshot. I am in front of my IB. I click on Business Management, First Assessment 2024. I am in front of our website, and on the right hand side I will click on Specimen Assessment. So here is an example, specimen paper about a social enterprise called Share My Lunch. Here is an extract from the paper, and you can see range of materials students will have, social media posts here, financial figures, of course. And here are the questions where I took the liberty to highlight the command term. Describe, AO1, explain, AO2, recommend, AO3. We are familiar with those command terms. This is a specimen paper. And the guide includes the mark bands. So we know how paper 3 will be assessed. So the task is new, but we are all familiar with this model of assessment with mark bands and such criteria. Criterion A, use of resource materials, criterion B, business management tools and theories. We also have more support material in the IBTSM. So I am back in front of the subject website. I click on TSM here in the middle, business management teacher support material. And I have so much support, starting with some ideas to define social enterprise. So the IB gives us a lot here. The IB is very nice with us teachers, as it is with candidates who receive the formula sheet for their exams. This is not changing. So paper 1, 2, 3 are different. I've changed, and so has the IA, the internal assessment. I'll let you read those key parameters. In green, the ones not changing, and in red, what has changed. And on this slide, I just outlined for you the nature of the task. Again, we have so much material to help us on our website. Including 6 samples of IAs, each with detailed comments. Here is an example. This material is designed to help us better understand the IA criteria, the expectations, and thereby to calibrate. So my friends, reflection time again. I would strongly recommend that you pause the podcast and that you consider how these changes are going to have an impact on your practice. As for example, for the IA, we do not need to work with standard level and higher level students separately. And before I finish, I would like to emphasize 2 other points, very IB. What do we have at the core of an IB education? We have the learning profile. Its 10 attributes, starting with inquirer, which is very hard to pronounce for a Frenchman. But above the list of attributes, we have this sentence. The aim of all IB programs is to develop internationally minded people who, recognizing their common humanity and shared guardianship of the planet, help to create a better and more peaceful world. Internationally minded. So this is at the heart of an IB education. Hence my little image. And international mindedness is very present in the new guide. We have it in several ways. For example, we have Ofsted's model with its national stereotypes. We have global topics, for example, global supply management. And we use anyway international examples to teach our subjects, typically multinational corporations such as McDonald's, Starbucks, Alibaba. They are so interesting for us. The guide is very clear about this. The guide tells us explicitly that developing international mindedness is essential to the business management course. It is there at the start of the guide. I'll let you read the rest of this paragraph. Again, it's a direct extract from the guide. Thank you. And I will conclude with the DP model. At its heart, we have the learner profile. When zooming out slightly, we have the ATL, the approaches to teaching, the approaches to learning. And then when further zooming out, we have the core with CAS, extended essay, and TOK. And as business management teachers, we are all TOK teachers. Of course, not all business management teachers fully appreciate what TOK is, what TOK is about, how TOK can help us in business management, and how in turn we can help TOK. And I plan to do another video podcast about this, but for now, I want to draw your attention to the fact that the guide has helpful suggestions to help us embed TOK in business management. So we have those suggested TOK questions at the end of each unit in the guide. This is the case in the current guide. This is the case in the new guide. So please, 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 colleagues, do not neglect TOK. TOK is the second most interesting IB subject after business management, of course. Anyway, colleagues, friends, thank you very much for watching this simple video podcast. My name is Loykie. My aim was to contribute to your professional development as an IB educator. My three objectives were to outline the changes in the business management guide, to help you reflect on the impacts on your practice, and also to create a sense of excitement and anticipation for the new guide. And I am also taking this opportunity to show you the cover of our Oxford University Press textbook and the QR code I set up. Thank you, merci, gracias, and in Ukrainian, дякую.